guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I have been really wanting to do more watercolor painting recently, so I thought, because typically when I do like Monday's video or traditional art videos, I don't show too much of like digital sketching or the digital art process that I do prior to getting to that point. And oftentimes whenever I do like alcohol marker drawings or watercolor drawings or paintings, I guess in this case, I like to digitally sketch and then have the clean sketch be kind of like my guide when I transfer it to like the traditional art paper. So today, I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of go through the steps that I would take to get to the watercoloring session, which I think will be in part 2's video. To start off, I actually don't start digitally right away. Sometimes I do, but for this one I did not. So let me show you really quickly. I like to start in my sketchbook, and this is not always the case, but this does feel a little bit less pressure for myself if I can start just sketching and see how I like it in kind of like more of a pencil or like a pen, watercolor, whatever you want to use to jot down your ideas. So in here, I have one of, I think it's like Lauma from Genshin Impact, because I adore her color palette so much and her design that I kind of want to turn her into like a watercolor painting. Probably very simple, just headshot. So here's like a little sketch of her. And then over here I have one of Danheng, and I don't know if I'm gonna do a larger piece or I'm gonna keep it kind of like of this smaller size. But here I wrote down that I wanted to draw like Astilbe. I don't know how to say this flower. I'll put it on the screen for you guys if you're interested. But they basically mean promise to wait and dedication, which I think fits this particular Danheng. So I did these sketches in kind of a blue mechanical pencil to start off with. I added a little bit more of like darker lines using a ballpoint pen, similar to the one of Danheng right here, and then a sketch to cover up some sketches I didn't like from underneath. But I wanted to have a better idea of how I wanted to either frame Danheng for this piece or how I wanted to add in these flowers, because they're kind of like fluffy, or not fluffy, they're so bunched up and tiny that it's a little bit hard for me to paint just small individual flowers, and I kind of want to create a little bit of depth. So I'm thinking of doing like more watery, faded, softer ones in the back, as well as a little bit in the front, and we can add some detailed ones afterwards. So I did end up putting a watercolor postcard in here with kind of like a test of one of the flowers, just to see if I can understand the shape a little bit better and what kind of colors. So this is just like the generic color of the flower. I don't know if this is the one that I'm going to be using for this piece, but I think we're going to start off maybe with the one of Danheng, and then I'll move on to the one of Lauma, because I do not have a lot of ideas for her in particular. But let's get started working on the digital version. I'm going to keep this kind of like off to the side so that I can continuously reference it. Okay, so now that we're in Procreate right now, I recommend you measure out the paper that you want to work with, and you can definitely change like the size of your sketch if you need it to fit your canvas, but I find it easier if you at least have the proportions kind of like measured out. Yeah, for Danheng, we're going to do 7.5 by 10.5. I'm going to leave it at 350, and we're going to do these are by pixels, oopsies. Let's go inches. 7.5, 10.5 by 7.5 inches. And obviously size is going to affect the amount of layers you can have, but since we're just sketching, I don't really mind. I'm also going to knock this back. Danheng, just because I do have an idea for his for the most part. So I think I will split this video kind of into 2 different parts. One will focus just on the digital sketching session, because I know some people are just more interested in digital, and then some people might be more interested in painting and watercolor, so I'll keep that kind of like separate. So how do I want to do this? Because I like drawing and painting faces, so I do want his face to be fairly prominent. We can always resize this later. This is Danheng. Because the plan is like low-key keep his portrait simple, and then I will have our Astilbe. I don't know how to call the flower, but kind of blowing in the wind. I'll kind of figure out how I want to kind of like proportion out our flowers, because I want some to be in the foreground and then some to be more in like the background. Shrink him a little bit more. So for these particular portraits, I've been mostly having fun doing like lighting, but I want to keep the movement in mind because these are going to be more or less just like headshot portraits, and I can just focus on really getting down to painting for the most part. Because Danheng in Honkai Star Rail is like definitely one of my favorite characters, so I want to make sure I do him justice. So because I want his face to be on more like the softer side, if I can, I want to make the expression kind of subtle, so we'll kind of keep it neutral and then hopefully make small changes to make it seem like he's, you know, happy to see you. I was gonna do a different one. I might wait until I do like actually a larger painting for him, but I want to draw him with like the giant Danheng plushie, because that thing has like the cutest expression. I'll see if I can change his expression to be what I want it afterwards. Let's lower his face a bit so I don't accidentally give him the longest neck in the world. I definitely have been doing this angle more often, unfortunately. Okay, hair. More recently, I've been separating the hair onto a different layer, so it doesn't like mess around and screw up the eyes. I might have to soften this up even more. Like, I know I want it to be subtle, but there's just something nice and warm about the one that I have in my sketchbook. His expression gives a little bit more of like, glad you're here. Also song-wise, I think I last recommended was, yeah, Late Summer by Akugetsu, which is like Till's singing voice in Alien Stage. If you're looking for something more comfy, kind of fall, like I guess like late summer vibes, like the name implies. But right now, I'm not in like a super calm mood per se, so I'm listening to Maestro by Akugetsu, also very like pump kind of hype. I don't know how to explain the song type, but I really like it. I just really like Danheng as a character, and visually I think he's like handsome, pretty. He kind of falls in between both, and he's like cute. Like, it's a lot of things I like about Danheng a lot. And then color palette too. But the fun thing about also watercolor is that you get to really play around with the color palette and let colors like mix and bleed. And I think color and lighting is very important. Maybe it's okay. I don't know if I'm making his chin too long or I need to like lower or elongate some of the features here. I also really like wispy or like fluffy, messy hair. But planning out lighting is going to be important. I also want to make sure that I keep a lot of my colors very pure for the most part until I want to like. So the thing I want to focus on is making sure that I plan lighting. Kind of go in. I might want to shrink him once again. I don't have to be like super neat with my sketch. I just need to make sure everything's placed correctly because I am low-key gonna go in kind of like blind when doing the transfer because I'm solely going to be relying on what I kind of scribbled down digitally. So I do want room for his little horns, and then we'll duplicate it, I think. Let's see if I can flip this. Planning sometimes does make me fairly nervous. Because what if like all this planning and it doesn't really pan out? So I'm gonna try my best to take every necessary precaution to make sure that I at least don't hate the piece. I'm debating. I might do 2 paintings. Maybe I'll do like an ultra large one. But it might have the same vibes is the problem. I'll just choose like a completely different color palette. How large is that piece? I think it might be 11 by 14-ish, or it's 12 by 15, 12 by 14, 11 by 15, something like that. We can paint something much, much larger. I also still didn't really think about how I want to pose or place Lauma. I apologize if that's not how you say her name, but these guys both have like horns. It's the horn aesthetic duo, even though they're from different games. But they're both characters like I'm super looking forward to. I think this is actually supposed to be like glued to his body. So let's not go too crazy, because I don't see it really moving. I mean, granted, this isn't really moving either. So for these patternings, I think it's actually easier to do this. I don't know why I don't just do this right away. But to follow something like this, maybe I'll use a different brush. I'll just like knock down the opacity. Maybe a little bit easier. I don't know if this is like entirely correct, which is probably another problem I'm having. But if I was doing this digitally as like the final piece, then I would definitely clean this a lot more. But because I don't have to worry about the lines being too much in the way when I start to paint it with watercolors, because hopefully by the time I transfer, I just make sure that everything looks as neat as possible, that I can just kind of play more into just figuring out where to place colors properly and like, you know, thinking about lighting, accurate colors, temperature, all that stuff. This eye's not gonna be really visible. I don't think I'm drawing it in the right spot either. Oh, I don't know why I put so much detail. I forgot. Another reason why I didn't want detail here is because I will be placing the flowers, but I guess I can raise them up slightly. I should have like a nice enough amount of space where the horns are cut off, because otherwise any tangent or like there's too much tension up here otherwise. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can figure a way to put in the little astilbes or whatever, however you want to pronounce those flowers. And then when I do the watercoloring, if I don't really like it, I can always just like exceed over the lines or whatever. But because this one's going to be on a watercolor block, I am going to leave my sketch actually as this blue color. You can go even lighter because we're not going to be putting this underneath a light pad. And I'll probably show you guys the printing process as well if you wish to get this size to be like 100% accurate depending on your paper and what kind of printer you have. But let's go ahead and get ready for Lauma. I might do a little bit of thinking first because I don't have any general direction for this. So all I know is that I want the light to come in this direction. I guess her head's tilted this way and like the shoulders come in this way, which is like very typical of me, right? Maybe have something, unless, well, I guess that would change the lighting though if I had a light source coming from this way, which could be fun. Then we can kind of keep it as a simple headshot because I just want to play around with her color palette a little bit. Twists. But I think this will work. That way we can kind of keep it simple. And I'll try my best to do some pretty lighting. Because at this point, until I kind of like build up my confidence with painting again, I am gonna take it easy and just try to build up more on technique rather than extravagant pieces or anything like that. Too, what is it called? Detailed or too ambitious, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to do anything that would like deter me from wanting to continue to do watercolor until I feel comfortable again. So she only does have one eye exposed, but you can kind of see a glimpse of the second eye. So what I'm going to do is just flip this over and use it kind of like a placeholder for the time being. Also helps me find the center of the face. So I will probably paint her first, just because there's less at stake in terms of like the flowers and the colors for Danheng and the size of it. So like if I for some reason don't like it, we can easily either restart something else, or I can also just like end up redoing it. I guess this one I want slightly. Okay, let's redo this using my hand as a reference. Also love her nails, super cute. I want to paint my nails that color, but I don't have that type of nail polish or like that color of nail polish. So when I do, I'm gonna do that color. It's kind of like a pale minty green. I've been wanting to learn how to paint my nails more because I always get recommended so many cute designs on Pinterest posts. So I kind of want to replicate some of them. A lot of them have more of like that glossy jelly look, and then some of them have more of like that almost a watercolor marbling look, which I think looks so cute. But I don't know how to do it. You have to look up like tutorials and stuff. I think for the wind or like the movement, because I do like adding a little bit more movement, especially for like headshots, because otherwise they're sometimes just a tad boring. So I think in my sketch I had it going also this way. Air vents. So I'll do it like this. I feel like she's much more of like a delicate, softer character, so the pose doesn't really fit her all too well. I'm super pumped for both of the games though. Sometimes like in gachas, if there's not really like a character you really love, you're gonna have sometimes like a big lull where maybe you won't pull for a long time, or like nothing sparks your interest all that much. The little, what is it called? Reference image that I have of her. Sometimes I can't see the details, so you also have to get like multiple angles. Well, depending on like how much you can interpret and how much you taking chances if it's different. Like it's not like a super big deal as long as you're not missing like anything too important. That being the case, I am gonna shuffle her over. I want like a full turnaround of her. Because her hair is kind of like interesting of how it's, what's it called? I was gonna say formatted, but I don't think that's how you would say it. I guess like how it's shown, because there's definitely some areas where you can kind of see like, oh, it's like sectioned, but then there's like these little kind of flyaway bits where I can't tell if she has it like tied or pinned or something like that, because they are like of a different length. I like shrunk her shoulders, but I feel like they, like just in general, all this should be a little bit wider. Then the last thing we need to really include is mostly what is it called? I might put her arm almost behind her body, but the thing that I want to make sure I can kind of like accurately or somewhat accurately depict is her horns. So new layer, I might change it to similar blue. Okay, and then I totally missed something on the Danheng piece, so we're gonna start with Laoma first, which is planning out our shadows. Now I can save this as is after I merge my layers. I can alpha lock. I might change it to black so we can see it very clearly, because like I said, this one's going to be transferred very differently from, well, not very differently, but different from the Danheng piece. So we can go ahead and save a copy. So this is where our light source is going to be for the most part. And you can really play around how like sparse or how strong the lighting you want it to be. I think for Laoma, I want the lighting to be pretty strong, to have nice contrast with the rest of her hair. So let me figure out kind of like a patterning for her hair highlights, as well as just like hair in general. So when I did the Shu Yamino piece, especially, I used like a yellow to orange to block out pretty much something similar to this. And then any subsequent color will stay pretty much within what we already shaded. If you want to have this to be very stark white highlights, or just white lighting, I guess, not white highlights per se. I don't know, I'll keep this lighting, but it's nice to like break it up potentially. And depending on how much light you want to keep, you can put it at the edge of here as well. Which I might do. I might even make this lighter, making this section get hit by more light. So I'm gonna make it dull, a little darker. And this is kind of like the lighting for this piece. So I'll probably keep my iPad open when I'm doing the coloring, so I think this might be okay. I'm going to duplicate. I'm gonna set this to multiply, and we'll just make it a little darker. New layer, and we can block in our lighting. So kind of similar, but I want the lighting to be coming from here. Very basic shape here. Then as we peek away from where the head and the neck is, we'll reveal some of this to have some light. And we can figure out how we want to do the highlight on his nose. Preserve some nice white. That way we have like a very good amount of contrast because Shu's hair was very dark. Something like this, and then alpha locking it so I can kind of see whether or not I like this. So I want to add a light yellow. Change this to white. Just a little hard for you guys to see. We're gonna use a darker yellow. Get nice warm edges here. Maybe make it more orangey. Something like this. So this is very similar to the one of Shu, but I want to see if I can add like a very light muted purple for the shadows before it gets all weird. So I would probably add even a turquoise to bleed into it or something, or a mint color to bleed into some of these areas. I'll just have to make sure it doesn't really bleed into the skin other than like the purple. Kind of like this. But that's it for today's sketching session. I hope you guys don't mind me splitting this up in kind of 2 videos once I switch over to Clip Studio Paint, because I like doing it in there for formatting, and I will see you there. Okay, so now we are in Clip Studio Paint. I have both the 2 sketches right here. So you can see that this one has black lines for the sketch, and this one has colored lines. So I was an idiot and kind of forgot to change this background color to white, but it's okay as long as you don't mind wasting some ink. I'm going to be printing this off with the laser printer, so it's not going to be too detrimental, but I will copy this. Now, if you know the size of your canvas, which you can always check, I'm going to change this to inches. So we have 7.5 by 10.5 and 350 dpi. I'm going to change this to 300 dpi, and we're going to go by 10.5. Just to resize it. I know you can just resize it manually using like the change resolution, change canvas size, whatever you want, but I like doing this just to make sure that it's like 100% correct, because I've done these for prints this way and it works better for myself, so this is how I do it. Then we'll make a canvas the size of your paper. So mine's 8.5 by 11. I'm gonna press OK, and we're just gonna paste our sketch onto the canvas. Now, luckily, because of this gray background, we can kind of see the difference. So I'm gonna make sure that my sketch does not touch the edges of the canvas, because my printer, for at least my laser printer, does not print full bleed. My photo printer does, but my laser printer does not. And I usually print these with a laser printer because it's just cheaper and faster. So I make sure that I don't want anything to be cut off. So make sure nothing touches the edges, and we should be good to go. Because like I said, you could probably just change the resolution and probably change perfectly fine, but this is just how the way I do it. So we have 5.5 by 7.75, new canvas by 7.75. We're gonna paste her in here, resize her, because the resolution does make it a lot larger. So if I have the wrong sized canvas, then they're not gonna be consistent. So you can see that she has a lot more room for hers, and oftentimes like I could fit 2 sketches on here if I needed to, but because Danheng is a little bit too large, we're just gonna fit the one on here. Actually, just to save paper, because I can always like cut the sketch and use it for something else. Just make sure you have an ample amount of border space, and we can go ahead and print these. Then once these are printed, we will come back in part 2, which hopefully will be Saturday's video, if not sometime next week, where I'll show you guys how I specifically transfer each of these sketches, since they'll be a little bit different. So for now, I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!